My name is Freddie Corbin, and the name of the shop is Temple Tattoo, and the sister shop is Tattoo 13. And I've been tattooing for 33 years in October, so a couple months.
Yeah, Freddie, so how have been the circumstances when you opened up Temple Tattoo?
I've been working in the city for 11 years, the first 11 years of my tattoo life, and I wanted to open up. I didn't want to open up in San Francisco because I had worked there and there was already like a shitload of great tattooers there. So I wanted to come over to Oakland across the bridge. So in '98, I came over here and opened up Temple Tattoo.
But when you were working in San Francisco, didn't you already had a quite huge of clientele and everything?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it wasn't huge, but I had a clientele for being there a decade and a lot of friends. But it's not that far. You know, it's just a train ride across the. You don't go across the bridge, but it's a train ride across the bridge. So I still was able to tattoo friends and clients from San Francisco, but another great thing was that I also lost a bunch of my clientele. The wonderful clientele that had followed me from the day I started tattooing and continued to get tattooed, you know, up through that decade. So, you know, just kind of left over from like the punk days and the art scene and stuff like that. And, you know, most of them were wonderful people, but it was just kind of nice to be able to like start fresh. You know, they were all great, but you know, you got a couple friends that just like keep coming back. So that was nice too. You know, it's like nobody knew who I was when I opened up here, which was really fucking cool. You know, like nobody in this neighborhood knew that I had worked for Ed or who any of those people were. Anybody that's working in San Francisco then or now. So it was really nice to just be like tattoo man. You know, I was just like the tattoo guy of the neighborhood. And eventually, some people figured it out. You know, like, oh, I used to work in the city and blah, 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 you know. But for the most part, people didn't really know, you know.
How many shops have been around here when you opened up?
I think Sacred opened up right when we opened up. I think when Sacred opened up, that was probably like maybe the 5th in the East Bay. I remember there being like maybe 5 tattoo shops. So I might have been like the 6th maybe. The 5th or something like that. I just kind of remember that name or that number, the 5 number.
How many tattooers are working now at Temple and at 13?
I think about 12 or 13. So here, Jason McAfee has been working here the longest, and then Heath Preheim, and then Dustin Wengren, and then Seth Wood came after that, and then Gus Martinez. And at 13, I would say Stash, Damian Kress, and Hector Fong have been working there the longest, and Chummy came right after them, maybe a year later. So they both are at like 19, you know, Jason being at 20. And Chummy just hit 18 years. You know, Hector bounced for a few years and went and worked in Austin with Jason Brooks at Rock of Ages. And then now we also, Sanyu just left, which is a bit of a bummer. Sanyu worked there for 13 years. He just bounced. And Ronnie Flores works there, and Matt Shanner as well, a couple days a week.
All the names you dropped, are those the tattooers who shaped both shops the most over the years? Like they are now?
I would say 13, yes, because the staff there for the most part has been like pretty consistent. But there's been a lot of great tattooers that have worked here that don't work here anymore that I think definitely have helped shape the shop. You know, like Chris Kahn and Scott Sylvia being 2 of them, of course. And Jesse Tuesday and Tim Lehigh worked here for a little while. Jeff Whitehead worked here a little bit. So everybody kind of throws something in, brings something to the table.
What do you enjoy most in the fact that some of these guys are working for such a long time with you?
well, having them around, I think, is what I enjoy the most. And it's just neat. You know, it's something that I've seen here and there, but we just have a really great thing. It's a very like kind of family-ish kind of thing. I mean, these guys are like my brothers. And, you know, we love each other. And we put up with each other, you know, and we deal with each other. So it's nice to know that you can have a hard day and somebody's not going to like really hold it against you, you know. So that's probably what I enjoy the most about it, is just the camaraderie and the love and the loyalty, you know.
For how long did you have Temple when you opened up 13?
2 years. I think Temple's like just about 2 years older than 13.
And Temple, was it open up right afterwards you were working for Ed? Or?
No, there was about a year or two. It took me a while to get open. You know, like I looked for over a year for a spot. And this spot wasn't ready. You know, I could tell you a very brief story about looking at a place around the corner on Broadway and kind of wanting to be on a main drag because I didn't know the city very well. And a place was offered to me on 17th Street, where we are now, and it was the place across the street. Now, when the guy offered it to me, which was 6 months previous, I said, no, thanks, I want to be on a main drag. But because he was the only person that had said yes to me in almost 2 years, then I was like, I'm going to call that guy back. So I called him back, and I came to look at the place across the street, and it wouldn't do. It didn't have a toilet. You know, it just wasn't the right spot. But this place was for rent. Now, if I had come and looked at it the 6 months previous when the fella offered it to me, this place wouldn't have been for rent, and I wouldn't have gotten the spot. So it was all divine intervention, I guess.
And you also started working with rotaries not that long ago, and also using the iPad. So what was the reason you changed your work-wise?
I started working with rotaries because I liked the effect that I saw people get with them. So you know, I'm open to trying new stuff. Old dog, new tricks, I think is a good thing to be. And the iPad, same time, a couple years ago. So I saw a coworker using one and just, you know, was like, wow, you know, you can get better stencils, it's like way more efficient. So for me, if I'm going to draw Jesus' head or something like that, normally I would have, you know, made a copy of maybe a holy card and put it in the copier and then gone to a light table and traced the copy and then traced that and probably traced it one more time if I had the time. Which I can do that once and get, you know, a precision, crisp stencil. So I feel that it's helped my tattooing because if you're losing the eyes and the Jesus head because you're an hour in and you're just getting to the eyes, you know, it can make the tattoo look a little clunky if you're just kind of winging it. But if you have like a proper stencil there, that helps a lot, you know. So, yeah, I really like it.
Yeah. You're also going to be on the second Trouble Tattoo tour now. So is,
yes,
for example, using the iPad working out way easier to prepare yourself?
Well, the funny thing is I drug that thing to every single tattoo shop we went to last year, but I only used it once. And I had a book of designs, you know, that had, you know, a dozen Sacred Hearts at least in it, and a bunch of roses and other stuff. And I was just kind of like, well, if they can't find in that book, they don't really want to get tattooed. But I ironically ended up drawing every single tattoo I did on, every single one I drew on, except for there was a lady who wanted a Sacred Heart on the side of her ribs right here. And I couldn't really, you know, with the cross and everything, like because of the twist, I couldn't really draw that on properly and have it be straight. So I just used the stencil that time, and I used the iPad for that. And, you know, again, I took a picture of her reference, click, and went in and traced it and sent it to the copier, pulled it out, and made a stencil. You know, so I was glad I had it that one time. You know. I will bring it again, see what happens.
Yeah. Was there a special moment or one of your favorite moments when you think about the tour? Is there something?
There was definitely a few. I really loved getting to take a shower in that hockey stadium the convention was in. That was amazing. And I loved tattooing at Hank's. I loved going to Tintin's. I loved going to Dan's at Luxembourg. That was awesome. I loved all the shops. They were all wonderful. Christoph's shop in Berlin was great. Black Hole, I loved. They were all wonderful, and everybody was a great host. I think staying in the psych ward was super fun, with Shane and Scott Sterling and Derek. That was funny. Traveling with all the guys was a blast. And I think the last night of the convention, I think I might have been the last person tattooing as they were tearing it down. I had like a couple more to do. And it was kind of cool because I was a little bit nervous about, being I don't know when the last time I worked 11 straight days in a row was. It was definitely before my kid was born. So, 10 years since I've worked 11 days in a row. And, before I had done that a bunch, but I was a little nervous about being kind of tired and being, last man standing and in there and doing it. It was like, okay, this feels good. So that was a good moment. But I think the camaraderie with the guys was the best part, the funnest part. Yeah.
So what do you think about the second tour? So what do you expect from it maybe?
I think it's going to be a little bit better in some ways. The first one is always wonderful because it's the first time and it's new and it's this big experiment. But then anytime you've done something once and then you get to do it a second time, you kind of figure out what few kinks were there and we can kind of sort through that. So I think there's less tattooers this time, which I think is important for the size of the tattoo shops. And I happen to know everybody this time, which was great getting to know people last time. But, maybe it'll just be slightly different because like everybody kind of knows each other already. And, I think it'll be good times. I think it'll be fun. Yeah.
Back on the shop one more time. How did the area where the shop is changed over the years?
Well, extremely dramatically in the last five years. Extremely dramatic. It's changed like any other neighborhood that was a little dirtier, still had all the character, but was a little more hoodie, just a little bit lower income than the monies that's around right now and the renters that are around right now. So it was more working class, and I enjoyed the people a little bit more. I don't mean the clients, I'm just talking about the people that are walking around the neighborhood, It was way more personal. When I first moved here, all the business owners knew each other, and we'd wave to each other and say what's up and all that stuff. And, we still, because we've been here for so long, we still know people that have been here a long time, but there's also like newer people coming in, and, I've met a couple of them and they seem nice, but it's just different,
I've been on the Ed Hardy exhibition, Deeper Than Skin, and I was really impressed by the whole work and how everything was set up. And I was just thinking to myself, what does it mean for you, for example, being a part of this journey?
It's a huge honor and a privilege, basically. I haven't been a part of that journey for over 20 years at this point, but it's something that was huge and just a complete game changer. To get to work with Ed was just phenomenal and amazing. The people I met that let me in because I worked for Ed was amazing. People that I admired and looked up to were like, oh, hey, how's it going? I didn't have to I got tattooed by them as well, but that wasn't how I had to meet them. I was let indoors that normally wouldn't have been open to me because I worked for Ed. So that was humongous. Game changer. Yeah.
And from the perspective of now, you are also one of the guys who wrote history in the Bay Area. but was there a moment back in the days that you have been aware about the importance of the Bay Area from tattoo history?
I was always aware of it because I was reading Tattoo Time really early on in my like excitement and pursuit of tattooing. So from reading Tattoo Time and seeing, you know, Greg Irons, San Francisco, Ed Hardy, San Francisco, Erno, San Francisco, Bill Salmon, San Francisco, Leo Zulueta, San Francisco, you know, I could tell that that was a bit of a tattoo mecca, you know, and I was just like, well, where are these people? And pursued them and went and got tattooed by them, you know. So yeah, I definitely had an understanding that it was a very special place, no doubt, no doubt.
Over the years, you had also a lot of guest artists, and are they, would you say, also coming because of the history the most, or
To Temple?
Temple or the Bay Area?
Or the Bay Area, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, there's been a lot of great tattooers from around the United States that have moved here because they want to work around exceptional tattooers and learn and grow. So, yeah, I mean, it's a place that people migrate to learn, to be a part of it, to, you know, get better.
And with the experience of your career, would you start a career as a tattooer nowadays?
You know, I think so. I mean, I love tattoos just as much as I ever have. So I would assume that I would be turned on by them. You know, it's definitely different, and you see, they're mainstream, so you see them on TV, and you see them walking down the street, you see them in ads, and you know, you see them in areas that you would have never seen tattooing in the 80s. So when I started, so you know, basically, I would assume, you know, who fucking knows, but I think I would, yeah.
From all these things with traveling, working for Ed, building up your own shop, are there some things you would change in a way, and are there also things of what you would say, I would definitely would do it again?
Well, of course, there's always one or two things you'd change at least. You know, if you had the opportunity to go back in time and do that, which is impossible. But I would say most of the things I would do again in a second. I mean, everything regarding tattooing, I would do again, of course, you know, because it was definitely like a great trip.
You told me that you are going to give Austin an apprenticeship,
Yeah.
and that he's going to be the second one you give an apprenticeship to. So, what would be your advice for some young tattooers who are right to start?
You know, this might sound cliche, but cliches exist for a reason. What I did, I would tell them to do what I did because it worked for me. I would go around and start getting tattooed by whoever is good in your area and try and create some kind of relationship with that person. And then once you've gotten tattooed a couple times, then you would start talking about like, hey, I have this desire, I want to start learning how to tattoo, what would you recommend? Or because I think one of the biggest mistakes that some people make that want to get into tattooing is they take their portfolio around the tattoo shops and ask for apprenticeships. And it never hurts to ask, but who's going to teach somebody that they've never met to tattoo? I mean, I'm sure it's happened here and there, but you know, I just feel like I would want to know the person. If I know I'm going to spend the next 2 to 5 years with them, then I want to know who I'm dealing with, you know. So I would say get tattooed. You know, I mean, that's what I've always told anybody that's asked me. You know, it's like, well, find some rad tattooer that doesn't have a million people working for him and go get tattooed by him and establish a relationship, or her, and establish a relationship with them. You know, that's what I would tell them to do. and draw, you know, and learn the material, subject matter.
Great. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's it.
It's fun. That was good.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Ollie.
Thank you.
I'm excited.